Dark Shadows, number 80, BTR 10766, Air 101466, take one.
My name is Victoria Winters. The death of a friend of the Collins family has been written off as accidental. But in this great and gloomy house, there is still one man searching for something. Something he fears might connect him with a death that is thought to have been accidental.
The pen. I was standing just about here. Carolyn offered me the pen and then left. And then later she came back. By the fireplace here. And I offered her the pen. She refused. I put the pen in my pocket. Maybe I changed my jacket. No, I didn't. Well, you do move about silently, don't you?
Perhaps I should wear wooden shoes.
I suppose you wonder what I was doing.
Not at all. I know what you were doing.
Just what do you think I was doing?
You were practicing a new dance step.
Oh. Well, unfortunately not. I was trying to remember something, but it wasn't very important. Are you looking for something?
Not something, someone. I can't find David anywhere. He seems to have vanished into thin air.
Well, not exactly.
Do you know where he is?
But I received a call that he was at the Collinsport Inn with Burke Devlin.
Well, perhaps I should go and get him.
No, don't bother. By the time I got there, he had already left alone, and I didn't see him on the road as I drove home.
He's probably gone to his favorite haunt, the old house.
Just the sort of hideout that my son would choose.
He'll probably come home when he gets hungry.
Oh, Vicky, have you heard any more about my sister hiring Mrs. Johnson to work here?
Well, as far as I know, no more's been done about it.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that you can dissuade her from bringing her on here, because I dislike having strangers around the house.
Well, not so very long ago, I was a stranger myself.
Well, but you see, that's quite different. You have come from out of town without any local connections. If we bring Mrs. Johnson here, I'm sure she will want to have all of her friends coming here, and I think the place will be flooded with local curiosity seekers. I'm not too keen on the idea of having Mrs. Johnson hovering about.
Roger, will you stop interfering with the running of my house? The responsibility is mine.
But really, Liz.
Will you excuse me? I have something to do.
Of course. Now, Roger.
I know Collinwood belongs to you, my dear sister, but since David and I are living here, it seems like we could be consulted before you bring strangers in off the street.
Mrs. Johnson can hardly be considered a stranger. She was Bill Malloy's housekeeper.
She will be a constant reminder of Bill Malloy's death.
Roger, you're being ridiculous.
I don't want to think of the way he died. He was practically brought in on our very doorstep.
Roger, I want to spend less time on the house and more with other things. For instance, David, since you never have any time to devote to your own son.
What's Vicky for? That's her job.
She's his tutor, not a constant companion. I wanted to spend more time with Carolyn.
I see. All right, then. If you are satisfied, and if Carolyn's satisfied, and David is satisfied, and Vicky is satisfied, then I suppose I have nothing to complain about.
No, you haven't.
Well, since you're so concerned about my son's choice of companions, how is it that he's gotten so chummy with Burke Devlin?
Anybody home?
Come on in.
Vicky, I have a problem.
Ignore it and it'll go away.
That's my problem. It already isn't there. I mean, what should I do about Joe? Just because I broke that date with him, he hasn't even called me.
Oh, it's early still.
I know, but I usually hear from him.
Well, why don't you break down and call him?
Then he'll think I'm the one in the wrong.
Aren't you?
Of course, but I don't want him to know that.
Well, then what are you going to do?
I guess I'll call him. I can always say it was your idea.
I have no idea why David was in town. All I do know is that he was having something to eat with Burke Devlin at the Collinsport Inn. Mrs. Johnson was there, too.
Both of them?
Well, apparently not.
I'll certainly speak to David about it.
Well, I wish you would.
All right, Joe. That's marvelous. Will you get here as soon as you can? Bye-bye.
Well, nice to see one happy face around here.
I am happy.
Good. Kitten, are you positive that you gave Burke's fountain pen back to me?
Of course.
Well, what makes you so positive?
Because it was the night Mr. Malloy died. You don't think I'd forget a thing like that, do you?
No, I suppose not.
And then later, you told me you went right from here to the office. So if you haven't found the pin anywhere around the house, you must have lost it on the way.
Yes, I could have.
Vicky, you're marvelous.
Well, what happened?
I did exactly what you said I should do. And Joe pretended as though that argument were all his fault, not mine. Anyway, he's coming right up here. Have you got a scarf I could wear with this?
I think so.
Oh, look at my hair. What should I do with it?
Brush it.
Thanks.
Vicky, have you seen David?
Mr. Collins said that he was in town. He's probably back by now.
Did he tell you he was with Burke Devlin?
Yes, he did.
This can't continue. We've got to get some help here.
How about Mrs. Johnson?
Oh, I don't know, Carolyn.
Oh, why don't you call her? It'd be such a nice thing to do for Mr. Malloy.
Yes, I suppose it would.
That sounds like Joe. Vicky, would you be a lamb and run downstairs and let him in?
Sure.
Thank you.
Carolyn, you were with David the other day in Burke's hotel room.
Yes?
Well, what was Burke's attitude towards David?
I don't know. I think he just sort of tolerates him.
And what is David's attitude towards Burke?
He seems to like him very much. David says he's his friend. Is my hair all right?
I wish everything in this house was as all right as your hair.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Vicky.
Carolyn will be down in a minute.
Oh, thanks. Listen, Vicky, does Carolyn know I saw you last night?
Not as far as I know.
Well, I mean, does she know that you saw me? I mean, my being at the Blue Whale.
Not from me, she doesn't.
Good. She might not understand about me dancing with Maggie there.
Well, I haven't said anything to her, and I promise you I won't.
Vicky, if I didn't happen to be in love with Carolyn, I think I'd be in love with you.
Hello, Joe.
Oh, hi, Mrs. Stoddard.
I'm glad to see you. Did you go into the drawing room? I want to talk to you.
Oh, sure.
I'll tell Carolyn she needn't hurry.
Thanks.
Oh, Roger, were you able to find David?
No, I wasn't. Is anyone in here?
Oh, yes, Mrs. Stoddard's in there with Joe Haskell.
Joe? What's he doing here?
He came to see Carolyn.
Does Carolyn know about last night?
Not if you haven't told her.
Well, that sounds like a slight reprimand to me.
Try and be nice to him. You know how much Carolyn thinks of him.
Yes, I do. But I wonder if she knows what little I think of him.
I want to talk to you about your plans for the future, Joe.
Oh, well, I don't have any special plans. I would like to have my own fishing boat and be my own boss, but that's a long way off.
Am I such a bad boss to work for?
No, it's not that. It's just that I've always wanted to be an independent and operate my own boat. Sort of strike out at success on my own.
It's a sound answer.
I hope I'm not interrupting anything of vital importance.
Oh, come in, Roger. I was just about to try and persuade Joe to give up his ideas about becoming an independent.
Well, are you afraid that the Collins fishing fleet can't stand the competition?
No, but I'd rather have Joe working for us.
Well, I thought if I had my own boat, I'd still be able to work for you on a contract basis.
Of course, that's possible, but I'd rather you stay on with us. I think you'd do better, and now with Mr. Malloy gone, we might be able to give you a better job.
Well, I thought those kinds of decisions were my responsibility, Liz.
I'm sure you'll agree with me, Roger.
Yes, I suppose so.
Well, I don't think it's going to be necessary for either one of you to decide anything.
Joe, of course, it's up to you, but I wish you'd give it more thought. And to be in a position to ask Carolyn to marry you,
I've already asked her.
well, perhaps without the necessary inducements, you do want to marry her.
Well, of course.
And perhaps she doesn't want to marry you.
Roger, I think it would be better if I talked to Joe alone.
As you wish, my dear. Oh, you don't want to go in there, kitten.
Why not?
Well, your Mr. Haskell and my sister are having a frightfully important conference.
Really? What about?
Well, I believe your mother is offering Joe some great bribe to take you off her hands.
Uncle Roger. You are joking.
Well, she wouldn't say it in so many words, but that's what it sounded like to me. Oh, kitten, you can't be serious about marrying an ordinary fisherman. That's the extent of his ambition.
What's wrong with being a fisherman?
Well, nothing. Nothing at all. Except, as with all fishermen, he must feel that there are more fish in the sea.
What is that supposed to mean?
Well, you might ask Joe if he enjoyed his date last night at the Blue Whale.
What date?
Well, I'm not one to talk out of school, but Vicky and I happened to be there, and we saw him with Maggie Evans.
I don't believe it.
Well, why don't you ask him? Or better yet, ask Vicky.
I'll do just that.
Don't be hasty, Joe. A promotion will get you what you want much sooner than if you wait to buy your own boat.
Oh, I know, Mrs. Stoddard, but if Carolyn ever wants to marry me, it has to be on my own terms.
Well, think it over, Joe.
I don't think there's any need to.
Mother,
Oh, hi, Carolyn.
If you think I'm something that can simply be bought and sold, you are very much mistaken.
That isn't what I meant.
And you with your precious independence. Well, you can be independent, but without me.
Carolyn!
Well, what's the matter?
You know, whether I hate you or not.
Why me?
Why didn't you tell me you saw Joe last night at the Blue Whale with Maggie Evans?
Would that have made you happy?
You're supposed to be my friend.
I think I am.
Then why didn't you tell me?
Because there wasn't anything to it. It wasn't as though they had a date. Maggie was there with her father.
If my Uncle Roger hadn't told me, I never would have known.
You wouldn't have been so unhappy. Is that what you came wailing up here about?
Partly. My mother just offered Joe a perfectly wonderful opportunity for advancement in our company. And he turned her down. He still wants to own his own boat.
Well, isn't that what you want?
Well, yes. Because that's what he wanted. It would have meant we could get married.
That's what you're afraid of, isn't it?
I don't know. I think I'll take a long walk and see if the sea air doesn't blow some sense into my head.
You want company?
No, thanks. I think I'll go out to Lookout Point. Who knows, maybe I'll fall in the water and drown like Mr. Malloy. And no more problems.
You do that. Only don't get washed up on Widow's Hill.
Tell Carolyn I'll call her later. If she'll still talk to me.
Oh, she'll get over it.
Well, there always seems to be something for her to get over.
I know. I want you to consider seriously what I suggested before you turn it down.
Well, I'm late. I better be getting back to work. Goodbye, Mrs. Stoddard.
Bye, Joe. Oh, Roger, would you mind going upstairs and telling Carolyn I want to speak to her?
As you wish, my dear sister.
I think she's in her room.
Aye.
Hello, Mrs. Johnson. Elizabeth Stoddard. I wonder if you would come out to Collinwood to see me at your earliest convenience. It's about a job.
Come in.
Vicky, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm looking for Carolyn. Have you seen her?
Well, she said something about going for a walk to Lookout Point.
Lookout Point. That's where Malloy drowned.
Well, it's not always so unlucky. I found this fountain pen there.
You found this pen at Lookout Point?
It's pretty, isn't it? But it's not much good without any ink. Excuse me.
Robert Goulet, Sally Ann Howes, and Peter Falk recreate the magic of Lerner and Lowe's musical hit Brigadoon tomorrow night at 9:30, 8:30 Central Time in color on ABC. Dark Shadows is a Dan Curtis production.